Most Harleys never reach 80,000 miles, not because the engines are weak, but because of small mistakes riders make every time they hit the road. These 17 habits helped push my Harley past 200,000 miles, while many newer bikes failed early. A few will challenge common advice, and the final tip is free, takes just 5 seconds, and could be the difference between a long-lasting engine and an expensive rebuild. Habit number 17. Run 3 separate fluids, not one. Here's where most new Harley owners screw up on day 1. They grab 1 bottle of oil for everything. That's a death sentence on a V-twin. Your Harley has 3 separate oil systems: engine, primary chain case, and transmission. Each one has different demands, different temperatures, and different shear loads. Dump the same 20-50 into all 3 and you're starving your clutch, burning your transmission gears, and cutting your engine oil's life in half. Engine gets AMSOIL 20-50 full synthetic or mobile 1V twin. Primary chain case gets Formula Plus or a dedicated primary fluid. Transmission gets Spectro or Redline heavy shockproof gear oil. 3 separate fills, 3 separate drain plugs, 3 separate intervals. I've watched riders blow $3,200 on a primary chain replacement because they ran engine oil in the chain case. It ate the compensator sprocket and shredded the chain adjuster shoes. Want your Harley to hit 200,000 miles? Start by feeding it right. But even the best oil won't help if you ignore the ticking time bomb sitting behind your cam cover. Here's what I mean. Habit number 16. Inspect your cam chain tensioners before they eat your engine. If you own a twin cam built between 1999 and 2006, you're riding with a factory-installed engine killer. The original spring-loaded cam chain tensioner shoes were made of plastic, not reinforced nylon, not high-temp polymer. Cheap plastic that wears down, cracks, and eventually disintegrates inside your cam chest. When those plastic fragments break off, they get sucked into your oil pump, clog your oil passages, and starve your bearings. I've seen twin cam engines with 35,000 miles that looked like they had 200,000 inside. Cam lobes gouged, bearing races pitted, oil pump gears chewed up from plastic debris. The fix is to pull the cam cover every 15,000 miles and visually inspect the tensioner shoes. If they're worn past the wear indicators, replace them. Better yet, upgrade to hydraulic tensioners from the Screamin' Eagle kit or go full gear drive with a set from S&S or Fueling. A gear drive conversion runs about $800 to $1,400 installed, but it eliminates the tensioner problem permanently. I've got over 100,000 miles on gear-driven cams. 0 issues. That $1,400 saved me from a $3,500 engine rebuild twice. And since you've got the cam cover off, you might as well address the part that's quietly overheating your engine from the inside. Habit number 15. Upgrade the oil pump on early Milwaukee 8s. Harley's first generation M8 oil pump was undersized for the engine's heat output. Oil would accumulate in the crankcase instead of circulating back to the tank. That's called sumping, and it's the #1 killer of 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee 8s. When oil pools in the crankcase, it whips against the flywheels. That aerates the oil, turning it into foamy garbage that can't lubricate or cool anything. You'll feel it as sudden power loss, sluggish throttle, and heat that makes your thighs feel like they're on a griddle. Harley quietly released updated oil pump designs in 2019 and again in 2020, but they never recalled the old ones. If you're running a pre-2020 M8, swap in the updated OEM pump or step up to an S&S or Fueling oil pump with a matched cam plate. That upgrade runs $400 to $700 installed. Compare that to the $4,500 engine teardown when aerated oil starves your rod bearings. Don't wait for the warranty, just do it. Now that your oil system is sorted, let's talk about the fluid most Harley riders never even check. Habit number 14. Flush your brake fluid every 2 years. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture straight through the lines. After 24 months, your DOT4 has absorbed enough water to drop its boiling point by over 100 degrees. Now picture this. You're coming down a mountain pass, loaded with a passenger and gear on your bagger. You're dragging brakes for 3 miles. That moisture-saturated fluid starts boiling inside the caliper. Air bubbles form. Your lever goes to the bar. You grab harder. Nothing. That's called brake fade, and on a 900-pound touring rig, it's not an inconvenience. It's a funeral. Flush the entire system every 2 years. Use DOT4, never DOT5 silicone, unless your bike came with it from the factory. The flush costs $60 in fluid and 45 minutes of your time. The alternative is a $12,000 accident and a bike you can't ride anymore. Speaking of invisible threats, let's talk about the part that vibrates itself to death without warning. Habit number 13. Check your compensator before it grenades. The compensator sprocket sits on the end of your crankshaft, connecting the engine to the primary chain. It's designed to absorb torque spikes during deceleration. On twin cams, the stock compensator uses a spring pack that fatigues over time. When it fails, you'll hear a loud metallic clunk every time you start the bike or chop the throttle. Ignore that sound and the compensator will shatter, sending metal fragments through your primary chain, your clutch basket, and sometimes punching a hole in your primary cover. I've seen $2,600 in damage from one ignored compensator. The spring pack was $85. If you hear a rhythmic knock at idle that disappears above 1,500 RPM, pull the primary cover and inspect. Upgraded options like the SE Screamin' Eagle compensator or a Baker lockout compensator eliminate the problem entirely. The lockout is rougher at idle, but it's bomb-proof. Your engine, your call. Alright, let's shift to the kind of habit that separates 200,000-mile riders from 50,000-mile riders. Habit number 12. Change all 3 fluids at 3,000-mile intervals. Harley recommends 5,000-mile oil change intervals. That's fine for a bike that cruises at 65 miles per hour in cool weather. But most Harleys are air-cooled V-twins running hot in traffic, idling at stoplights and lugging through low RPM city rides. Under those conditions, your oil is cooking at 250 to 280 degrees Fahrenheit. That breaks down anti-wear additives and shear stability fast. My rule: engine oil every 3,000 miles. Primary fluid every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Transmission oil every 5,000 to 10,000 miles. And always cut open your oil filter after every change. Look at the media for metallic particles. If you see glitter, something's wearing inside. One filter inspection at 22,000 miles showed me early bearing wear before it became a catastrophic failure. That 10-second look saved me $2,800 in bottom-end work. And while you're doing your oil change, there's one spot you're probably skipping that corrodes faster than you think. Habit number 11. Clean and grease your battery terminals every season. Harleys vibrate. Everything vibrates. That includes your battery terminals, which slowly work loose and build up a crust of white corrosion that chokes your electrical system. I've had riders tow their bikes in convinced the starter was dead. The fix was a wire brush, baking soda, and dielectric grease. Total cost, under $5. Total time, 10 minutes. A corroded terminal doesn't just cause no starts. It forces your charging system to work overtime, which burns out your stator and voltage regulator. That's a $600 to $900 repair hiding behind a dirty battery post. Check terminals every oil change. Clean them, grease them, tighten them to spec, not gorilla tight, just snug with a wrench. Your electrical system will thank you. Now, if this kind of hard-earned advice is saving you from expensive mistakes, hit that subscribe button. I don't hold back, and there's a lot more coming. Habit number 10. Inspect your primary chain tension every 5,000 miles. A loose primary chain slaps against the inner primary housing, wears out the chain adjuster shoe, and eventually jumps teeth on the compensator sprocket. A tight chain loads the main shaft bearing with side force and cooks your clutch hub. Both extremes kill expensive parts. The spec is simple. Deflect the chain at the midpoint between the sprockets. You want a 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch of free play on the bottom strand. Cold engine, bike on the jiffy stand, primary cover off. If it's out of spec, loosen the adjuster bolt, tap the shoe into position, and retighten. Takes 15 minutes. I check mine every oil change. One touring rider I know skipped this for 40,000 miles. The chain jumped 3 teeth and shattered the compensator housing. The bill was $1,800 for a chain, compensator, and inner primary replacement. 15 minutes of checking would have prevented all of it. But it's not just the primary that needs your attention. Your final drive has a silent killer of its own. Habit number 9. Replace your belt at the first sign of cracking, not after it snaps. Harley's Kevlar reinforced drive belts are tough, but they're not immortal. Road debris, misalignment, and age cause tiny cracks in the cords. Once those cracks propagate, the belt snaps without warning, and when it goes at speed. You lose all rear-wheel drive instantly. Mid-corner or on the highway, that's a crash, not a breakdown. Inspect your belt every 5,000 miles. Flex the belt between pulleys and look for cracks, fraying, or missing teeth along the edge. Any cracking means replace now. A belt runs $80 to $150. The tow, the crash damage, or the hospital stay doesn't. And never pressure wash your belt. High pressure water forces grit into the cord layers and accelerates failure from the inside out. Now, let's talk about the habit that costs nothing but saves more engines than any part swap. Habit number 8. Warm up properly every ride. Cold starts kill more Harley engines than hard riding ever will. When you fire up an air-cooled V-twin and immediately blast off, your pistons are expanding faster than your cylinders. Metal-on-metal clearances are at their tightest. Oil hasn't reached the top end yet. You are running dry for the first 30 to 45 seconds. The fix is dead simple. Start the engine. Let it idle for 60 seconds. No more. Then ride gently for the first 3 to 5 miles. No hard acceleration. No high revolutions per minute. No highway merging at full throttle until your oil temperature gauge reads at least 180 degrees. That warm-up routine protects your piston rings, cylinder walls, cam bearings, and valve guides during the most vulnerable window of every ride. I have done this every ride for 200,000 miles. My cylinder bores still mic within factory spec. Speaking of factory spec, there is one part most riders over-tighten and it costs them dearly. Habit number 7. Torque your spark plugs to spec, not to feel. I've pulled spark plugs from Harleys that were cranked in so tight the threads stripped out of the aluminum heads. That's not a plug change. That's a $1,200 head repair with a helicoil insert. And if the coil doesn't hold, you're buying a new head. Harley V-twin heads are aluminum. The plugs are steel. Steel against aluminum with a torque wrench set too high equals stripped threads every time. The spec for most twin cam and M8 engines is 11 to 18 foot-pounds, depending on the plug type. Use a torque wrench, not your arm, not an impact gun, a torque wrench, and apply a thin coat of anti-seize on the threads. It prevents the plug from bonding to the aluminum overheat cycles. For plugs, run NGK Iridium 9 or the OEM Harley-Davidson plug. Replace every 20,000 miles on twin cams, every 30,000 on M8 engines. Check the gap with a wire-style feeler gauge, not the coin type. The coin type can damage the iridium tip. While you're in the top end, let's talk about a gasket that leaks on almost every aging Harley. Habit number 6. Fix rocker box leaks immediately. Those oil weeps around your rocker covers aren't cosmetic. They're the start of a cascading failure. The OEM rocker box gaskets on twin cams are notorious for hardening and shrinking after 30,000 to 40,000 miles. Once they leak, oil drips onto your exhaust headers. That oil smokes, stinks, and eventually bakes into a carbon crust that traps even more heat against the head. Left unchecked, this increases head temperature, warps the gasket surface, and now your simple gasket job has become a head resurfacing nightmare. A rocker box gasket kit runs $40 to $80. The resurfacing runs $200 per head. The full head replacement runs $800 plus. Fix the leak when it starts, not when it pours. Now, let me save you from the single dumbest thing I see riders do to their transmissions. Habit number 5. Never lug the engine in 6th gear. Your Harley's top gear is an overdrive. It's meant for sustained highway cruising above 65 miles per hour. It is not meant for rolling through town at 35 miles per hour in 6th because you like the low rumble. When you lug the engine below 2,000 RPM in top gear, you are creating massive piston stress from detonation. Pre-ignition hammers the piston crown, cracks ringlands, and destroys rod bearings with shock loads they were never designed to absorb. I have torn down M8 engines at 60,000 miles with cracked pistons. The owner? A lug-it-everywhere rider who thought low RPM saved the engine. It didn't. It killed it. Rule of thumb: if the engine stutters, shudders, or feels like it's laboring, downshift. Keep RPM above 2,000 in every gear. Your bottom end will last twice as long. And while we're saving the bottom end, let's protect the whole bike from something riders can't even see. Habit number 4. Treat fuel with stabilizer if the bike sits more than 2 weeks. Modern ethanol-blended gasoline starts degrading in as little as 30 days. After 60 days, the ethanol separates from the gasoline, sinks to the bottom of your tank, and pulls moisture with it. That water and ethanol mix corrodes your fuel tank lining, clogs your injectors, and gums up the fuel pump check valve. One winter of sitting with unstabilized fuel, and I've seen riders need a $450 fuel pump, $200 in injector cleaning, and a $350 tank reseal. The fix: add Stay-Bill or Startron at every fill-up during storage season. Run the engine for 5 minutes so treated fuel reaches the injectors and fuel rail. Storing more than 60 days? Fill the tank completely to minimize the airspace where condensation forms. Now, let's talk about the part of your bike that takes the most abuse and gets the least attention. Habit number 3. Service your front fork every 25,000 miles. Fork oil breaks down much like engine oil. Over time, it loses viscosity, becomes contaminated with tiny metal particles from the fork bushings, and gradually loses its ability to control suspension movement. The result is a front end that dives harder under braking, rebounds too quickly after bumps, and feels increasingly vague and unstable at highway speeds. On a 900-pound touring bike cruising at 70 miles per hour, vague steering is not just uncomfortable, it can become a serious safety hazard. Harley recommends servicing the forks at around 50,000 miles, but I change the fork oil every 25,000 miles instead. It may seem excessive, but that extra maintenance has paid off. I've never experienced a fork seal blowing out on the side of the road. Riders who wait until the factory interval often discover the damage only after contaminated oil has worn the seals, leaving fork oil running down the fork tubes and even onto their boots. A routine fork oil service typically costs between $80 and $150 at a reputable independent shop. Ignore it long enough, and a blown fork seal can easily turn into a $300 to $500 repair, not including the inconvenience of being stranded. Saving a little money today can easily become a much bigger expense tomorrow. The next habit is even more important. It is one of the reasons I'm still here to tell this story, and I'm not exaggerating. Habit number 2. Check your wheel bearings every 20,000 miles. Wheel bearings don't squeal before they fail on a Harley. They don't grind. They don't give you any warning at all. One day they're fine. The next day the wheel has play. And if you're unlucky, the bearing seizes at highway speed and locks your wheel. I had a rear bearing start to roughen at 45,000 miles on a cross-country trip. Caught it during a tire change because I grabbed the wheel and felt the slightest play. No noise, no vibration, nothing. Just a tiny wobble. If I'd missed it, that bearing would have seized within 2,000 miles. At 75 miles per hour, loaded with luggage, that's not a breakdown. That's a death sentence. Jack the bike, grab the wheel at 12 and 6 o'clock, and rock it. Any play, any roughness when you spin it, replace both bearings on that wheel. A bearing set costs $30 to $60. Installation runs $100 to $200. There is no cheaper insurance on a motorcycle. And now, the final habit. The one that costs nothing, takes 5 seconds, and is the reason my Harley outlasted every bike in my riding group. Habit number 1. Do a walk around before every ride. 5 seconds. That's all it takes, but almost nobody does it. Before you throw a leg over, walk around the bike. Look down. Check for fresh oil spots on the ground beneath the engine, primary, and transmission. Look at your tires. Is there a nail, a screw, a bulge in the sidewall? Glance at the belt for obvious damage. Squeeze the front brake lever. Does it feel firm or spongy? Kick the jiffy stand. Does it snap back with spring tension or flop around loose? I caught a rear tire nail at 0 miles per hour that would have been a blowout at 80 miles per hour. I caught a loose primary drain plug that would have run the chain case dry in 50 miles. I caught a cracked jiffy stand spring that would have dropped the bike at a gas station. Every one of those was a 5-second visual catch. No tools, no lift, no mechanic, just eyes. That walk around is the cheapest, fastest, and most powerful habit any Harley rider can develop. Do it every ride, and your bike will outlast everything on the road. Enjoyed the journey from start to finish? Subscribe and catch the next one.